The Blessed Virgin Mary speaks to priests. August 16, 2010. Our Church is being attacked, our priests, despised and murdered. Our Mother tells us today, the detractors of the Church will bring it great suffering. They openly fight against all that signifies God. September 1, 2010. Satan has attacked those who are consecrated, priests, religious, so that they flaunt what is not my Son's will and in that way distort, mix up, metalize what is sacred. October 24, 2010. I call my beloved priests to retake the strength of the divine word. February 5, 2011. I call my beloved priests so that they request the praying of the Holy Rosary and allow me to enter their life to take them towards my Son and thus encourage the Church to welcome me as the mother that I am of all of mankind. June 5, 2011. I invite my priests to raise their voice with courage, to call the faithful people to conversion, to not falter before the attacks of those who, within the same and beloved Church, fight against those who remain faithful and docile to my voice. My Son's Church will be shaken, the faithful shoulders of my faithful priests will sustain it and they will be its support. June 18, 2011. Children, the Church is living difficult moments. The Eucharist is despised, the sacraments are transgressed, my priests ignore me, the temples are empty, humanity has turned away from God. I invite my priests to remain firm, to preach with truth and with the urgency this instant warrants. Souls are entrusted to you so that you guide them by the good path and they are not lost. Do not forget that my Son is thirsty for souls. July 10, 2011. Wake up, wake up. Why do you sleep? My children priests, awaken my Son's people, so that they are not lost. July 20, 2011. My priests must strongly call women to come to receive me decently dressed. Before a king they must dress with decorum and dignity. October 24, 2011. Pray for my vicar, pray for bishops and for my priests. Bishops will rise against bishops. October 26, 2011. Beloved children, it is not so. It is not so because man insists on continuing, instant to instant, to offend my Son, rejecting his calls, so much so that you confuse him with chewing gum in your mouth. When you receive him in the Eucharist. So much so that women present themselves to receive my divine Son, King of kings and Lord of lords, immodestly dressed. I especially call my priests to be strong in this aspect. The offense committed against my Son is greater than the benefit the child receives, because if he or she were conscious of what he or she were receiving, the King of kings and Lord of lords, he or she would not come indecently dressed. December 28, 2011. I call my priests to remain in holiness, to preach with the heart, to live in humility, to awaken the souls that have been entrusted to them, to not hide the reality of this generation. You children, who walk beside me, who announce the fatal path of humanity, you, I bless. January 11, 2012. With how much pain I see some of my priests bring down from the altars my sacred image. But from the heart of my priests no one will be able to take me. I continue guiding them until the final instant, as I remain in the heart of each one of my children, fighting against that human will taken by darkness. January 25, 2012. I have spoken of those days in which many of my priests out of human respects will no longer call my Son's people with all the necessary intensity so that they change, but as Mother of humanity I must call each thing by its name. March 14, 2012. To my beloved sons the priests, I invite you to preach strongly. These are very important instants that will not be repeated, and you must proclaim my Son's word with strength, with power and courage, because you are responsible for the flock my Son has entrusted to you." January 7, 2013. Some of my priests on occasions prefer not to confront the people so as to continue to be accepted by society, forgetting that those who walk in what is undue, will perish, and those who walk in truth, will remain. February 20, 2013. So much prayer I have asked for my favorite children, the priests. And in many of them this evil human seed has borne fruit, but not the fruit of my Son, but the fruit that fell on barren soil, and distorting the word of my Son and letting themselves be invaded by evil whims darkened the house of my Son, closed the windows so divine light do not penetrate, closed doors to plot in secret, and under the dark planned the fall of the Church of my Son. April 4, 2013. My beloved sons, my priests will raise their voice to alert those who are mine until evil begins its persecution and martyrdom of my faithful. January 14, 2015. My beloved sons, the priests. Once more I call on you to proclaim the truth of my Son's gospel, not to hide the truth from my Son's people, and to warn them to remain alert, to revive the Spirit, to come to the Eucharistic sacrament, and not to deny that which is undeniable, that hell exists and is a state of woes, and that divine justice is soon to come to this generation. Do not continue guiding souls to liberalism, do not confuse them. The apocalypse has not passed. It is the present that my Son's lacerated people are experiencing when, every instant, thousands and thousands of human beings are killed. Is this not apocalyptic? Is the rage in man not apocalyptic? Is climate change not apocalyptic? Are the solar flares not apocalyptic? Science has an answer to it all, and my beloved sons the priests must use reason fused with the Spirit to guide my Son's people with wisdom so they won't sin anymore. January 18, 2016. Beloved children of my Immaculate Heart, at this instant it is very important for the people to have the priestly blessing. Unfortunately, some priests are not aware of its value and they do not apply it with faith in favor of the people. January 31, 2016. Evil will never triumph. The bad behavior of my Son's people will lead you to fall to the ground begging for the divine hand. Some of my favorite children the priests walk in such arrogance that does not let them turn back and, on occasion, their incongruous way of guiding my Son's people is the door through which these people get away and look for refuge in Satan by denying sin, denying evil, denying hell as a place of grief, denying God's law, denying the cross, denying me as mother. I see my favorite children the priests so weak. Some endorse the acts that lead to sin. I guide them so that they will save their souls. February 13, 2016. Those who abandon my Son's church are not only a few of my children. By the same token, the number of my favorite children the priests who will be martyrs will not be small. January 22, 2017. I feel pain, as mother, in knowing that some of my priests do not preach but unload their emotional state in sermons, provoking greater confusion among my Son's people, who are far from acting rightly. The hands that consecrate my Son have to be kept free from pride, envy, offense, premeditated lies. Woe to those of my priests who become persecutors of my Son's people, as a lack of sensitivity demonstrates a lack of divine love in the creature, and this paralyzes the truth, allowing the human ego to emerge. My priest sons, evil not only travels the road in search of my lay children, but sends demons with greater harshness to inundate the hearts of those who consecrate themselves to the service of my Son. Evil rises up through a lack of good judgment, spiritual poverty, laziness and anger in order to provoke discouragement in you, dereliction of your duties, the feeling that you are privileged and have superior rank, you therefore being those that cause dryness and hardness of heart in the souls that you lead. My beloved priests of my heart, do not forget that to serve my Son you must be an example and have a right heart. March 1, 2017. I find so much hypocrisy in prayers loaded with empty words without feeling or sincerity, in those who claim to be close to my Son, and in some of my priests who do not enter into the spiritual mystery that is commemorated from this day on, who do not preach a return to the gospel. This instant of penance is not lived out with its true meaning, nor with the true repentance or conversion necessary for you to return to my Son. I beseech my priests to touch deeply in my Son's people so that they do not take this instant lightly, as it is the eternal present, God, Alpha and Omega of man's existence. Divine love is the sustenance of those who seek it, and they are not finding it because of the laziness of those of my priests who abandon my Son's people to their fate, knowing that Satan's servants are waiting for their prey in order to trap it and chain it to false doctrines that are rising up forcefully in order to distort the divine commands. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. I have warned you, my Son's church will fall into confusion, which will increase without stopping, and priests will rise up against priests. Those who treasure the word of my Son will preach the truth, those who embrace other paths will preach licentiousness, causing my Son's people to go astray. January 8, 2018. I call you to initiate a reparation every third Monday of every month, during 9 months of the year, in offering to our suffering Sacred Hearts, in the face of the lack of compliance of some of my priests to their promises of consecration. To my priests, I will grant them by disposition of the Most Holy Trinity, the virtue of service to my Son with all their strength, and in that way they will be those who help souls to be willing to give themselves to my Son, being true shepherds, preachers, liturgists and teachers in the love of my Son towards the people. February 17, 2018. My priests will be needed in the communities where the people of God gather in order to help them. May 7, 2018. My priests suffer and will suffer to the full. Churches are desecrated and the people of my Son are made to suffer by the hordes of Satan. May 16, 2018. With tears in my eyes I have seen the love of my Son manifested on earth through my priests, defending their parishioners with their lives, thus fulfilling their oath to defend my Son's flock. May 21, 2018. Lack of faith is growing at every instant among the people of my Son, who are confused by the inconsistencies in the work and action of some of my priests who do not give testimony of divine love. This has increased due to the lack of prayer in houses of formation. My priests must not only be distinguished from the rest of my Son's people inwardly, but must be distinguished externally, properly attired so as not to be confused with the laity. My children consecrated to the service of my Son through priestly and religious ordination must be distinguished from the rest of my children so that respect is always motivated by a different treatment towards my Son's people and a different treatment by my Son's people towards my priests.